Welcome back to Crime Scene 24/7. To our returning subscribers, thank you for always engaging. Your likes, comments, and shares keeps us motivated. And if this is your first time here, make sure you hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our chilling crime scenes. Here, we dig deep, we investigate hard, and we bring you stories the mainstream left unsaid. So encourage us by engaging in our videos. Subscribe if you haven't, like, comment, and share. And when investigators opened the door to the bedroom, what they found stunned even experienced detectives. It was the early hours of Friday, September 19th, 2025, when emergency calls came in from Forest Acres Circle, near Walhalla in Oconee County, South Carolina. Isaiah Joseph Dionne, just 4 years old, was found unresponsive in the home of his mother, Destiny Shay Dionne, and her husband, former trooper Joshua Emanuel Lamar Latimer. When first responders arrived around 6:20 a.m., they encountered a boy whose condition defied comprehension. Isaiah weighed only 21 pounds. His ribs and bones were very visible, his eyes sunken. The death was swiftly classified as homicide by the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division, SLED. In the portfolio of allegations, Isaiah was forced to sleep on a blanket on the floor instead of a bed. Curtains in his room were stapled shut so no sunlight entered. He was deprived of proper water and, according to the prosecutor, forced to drink water from the toilet. Investigators found evidence he was locked in a closet and was isolated from the rest of the family beginning around age 2. The boy's stepfather, Latimer, had been a lance corporal with the South Carolina Highway Patrol, employed since 2017. He was terminated the day his arrest was made public. Both Dionne and Latimer were charged with 2 counts each of unlawful conduct toward a child and with homicide by child abuse. As the community reels from what the 10th Circuit Solicitor's Office called one of the most disturbing child abuse cases they've ever seen, we begin to trace the sequence the investigators are reconstructing, step by step. The case unfolds further, as investigators with the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division detailed the haunting timeline of the final months in the life of 4-year-old Isaiah Joseph Dionne. From the moment Isaiah was removed from the home of his maternal grandmother and placed under the daily care of his mother, Destiny Shay Dionne, and her husband, former trooper Joshua Emanuel Lamar Latimer, the boy's health began a precipitous decline. Authorities say he was not taken to any medical provider for 2 years, even though another younger child in the same residence received regular care. Investigators say that neighbors had noticed disturbing signs, meals brought into the home, only to see Isaiah gobble large adult-sized portions, unusual for a child his age. They did not immediately report what they observed. Court records reveal that within the home, the young child was locked in a closet. Curtains in his room were stapled shut to block daylight. He slept on a bare blanket on the floor, and water deprivation was such that officials say he was forced at times to drink from a toilet. The affidavit from the Law Enforcement Division paints a grim picture. The boy weighed just 21 pounds, his bones protruded, his eyes sunken. The coroner categorized his death as homicide, citing extreme indifference to life in the conduct of his caregivers. His stepfather had served since 2017 with the South Carolina Highway Patrol and was terminated the same day his arrest was announced. In the moments following their arrival at the home on Forest Acres Circle, deputies from the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division, SLED, and the local coroner confronted a scene far beyond what they had anticipated. The child, 4-year-old Isaiah Joseph Dionne, was found in a state of extreme neglect. He was cold to the touch and had been without any apparent medical care for months. Inside the house, law enforcement discovered the little boy's bedroom had its curtains stapled shut, cutting off natural light entirely. Records show he was reportedly confined at times in a closet. Among the items collected as evidence was the blanket Isaiah used on the floor to sleep, rather than a proper mattress. Investigators noted the absence of routine care. Despite a younger sibling being taken to doctors, Isaiah saw none. As forensic experts prepared their report, they cited the coroner's classification of the death as a homicide, not simply accidental neglect, but manifesting an extreme indifference to life. In the quiet aftermath of his passing, forensic teams and specialists began mapping the exact sequence that led to this tragedy. They reviewed Isaiah's medical history, or more precisely, the near absence of one. Records verified that no routine medical visits were logged for 2 straight years, despite another younger child in the home receiving care. Autopsy results, while awaiting full toxicology, already identified the classification of the death as homicide, citing extreme indifference to life in the conduct of his caregivers. Analysts mapped the living conditions: the boy's sleeping area, a bare blanket on a floor, curtains stapled to block all daylight, episodes of confinement discerningly noted in interviews with neighbors and first responders. Investigators assembled the walls of evidence. Malnutrition severe enough to make seasoned officers liken the child's condition to scenes more commonly seen in regions far removed from rural South Carolina. That forensic architecture formed the backbone of the prosecuting office's case, building toward a legal argument that this death was not a tragic accident, but a result of systematic deprivation and cruelty. The public face of the case, Destiny Shay Dionne and Joshua Emanuel Lamar Latimer, quickly gave way to a mounting legal and investigative storm. The South Carolina Law Enforcement Division, SLED, after being called to the scene of 4-year-old Isaiah Joseph Dionne's death, opened a full homicide investigation. Within days of the child's death on September 19, 2025, Latimer and Dionne were arrested. Latimer, a former trooper with the South Carolina Highway Patrol, facing termination the very same day his arrest was announced. From the charging documents, the pair were accused of placing 2 young boys, Isaiah and a 2-year-old sibling, at unreasonable risk of harm. The autopsy ruled Isaiah's death a homicide, a determination that shifted the case firmly into criminal court. The legal strategy laid out by the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division, SLED, and the 10th Circuit Solicitor's Office left little room for misinterpretation. This was a case built on raw evidence and grave allegations. Prosecutors charged Joshua Emanuel Lamar Latimer and Destiny Shay Dionne with both homicide by child abuse and unlawful conduct toward a child, asserting that each count applied not only to the death of 4-year-old Isaiah Joseph Dionne, but also to the circumstances surrounding his younger sibling. While the charges themselves defined the clinical boundary of the case, the prosecutors emphasized that the physical state of Isaiah and his environment were key. The combination of extreme malnutrition, isolation, and neglect created the foundation for their argument. In a hearing on October 16th, the solicitor argued the facts met the statutory definition of homicide by child abuse because they involved circumstances manifesting an extreme indifference to life. At the same hearing, the motion for bond was rejected, with the judge citing the severity of the alleged acts and their risk to the community. In the pre-trial phase, key motions and hearings began to shape the trajectory of the court case. In a hearing on October 16th, the 10th Circuit Solicitor, Micah Black, laid out disturbing testimony to the judge, including descriptions of the boy's condition by EMS personnel and details of the home environment. At that same hearing, a motion submitted by Destiny Shay Dionne seeking reconsideration of her bond status was taken under advisement. But the court denied relief, citing the severity of the charges and potential risk posed by the defendants. Prosecutors then served formal discovery to the defense, providing autopsy reports, affidavits, evidence inventories of the scene, and communications between investigators from the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division. The defense team requested independent expert review of the forensic and medical evidence, marking the transition from investigation to full legal preparation. As both sides prepared motions for trial setting, the county's prosecutor office indicated that it intends to call multiple fact and expert witnesses to frame the alleged extreme indifference to life standard required under South Carolina homicide by child abuse statutes. In the upcoming phase of the case, the prosecution and defense are preparing for pre-trial evidentiary motions with an eye toward jury selection. The motion calendar includes challenges to witness admissibility, potential disputes over expert testimony, and subpoenas for body cam footage and medical records. Meanwhile, the judge has scheduled a status conference to set deadlines for the final pre-trial disclosures and to establish a trial setting date. Both sides are actively exchanging witness lists, the prosecution signaling intent to call EMS personnel and crime scene investigators, the defense reserving rights to call independent forensic experts to counter the medical neglect theory. Jury selection strategy is already being analyzed. The seriousness of the alleged conduct means both parties are looking for jurors with the ability to weigh graphic evidence and complex issues of child abuse law. In short, the gears are turning from investigation and charging into the full machinery of criminal trial preparation. Every case we cover is more than just a headline. It's a life, a story, and a call for accountability. If you believe every victim deserves to be remembered and every truth deserves to be told, hit subscribe and join us here at CrimeScene 24/7. Turn on notifications so you never miss when we uncover the next case. Your engagement helps bring awareness, fuels deeper investigations, and gives a voice to those who can no longer speak for themselves. This is CrimeScene 24/7, where every story matters, every detail counts, and justice never sleeps.